Well, welcome back. The next steps with this Armoured walker is to start doing some further detailing, gluing on some more bits basically to finish it off, or at least get to a point where I'm happy with the overall appearance of it. So I've been looking out some bits and pieces, hopefully found some good parts that can add something to the overall look. Nice bit of a chassis or an axle or something here that looked quite good just up on the top there. Again, it's just a case of if you find something that fits or looks good when you offer it up, then it's a case of just sticking it on. Doesn't really need to have a reason for being there. In terms of the front of this thing, I won't be leaving this as a clear canopy or enclosure, because I can't paint inside there, it's not practical, so this will get painted as one with the rest of the model. But what I thought might be quite good is just getting something on the front of there that maybe just implies some sort of visor or some sort of viewing port. So I've got a little bit from a tank turret. Because this surface is all curved, I've been sanding away at the edges to try and get something that will glue reasonably closely to the surface, that curved surface. So I think I'm going to go with that. Okay, so that starts that off. Might need to do something about the gaps, maybe some green stuff again. Could do the trick. Now I've got some green stuff here to mix up, and I'm going to make a bead of that green stuff to put around the neck just to close off that gap. When you buy the stuff and it comes like that, touching, it's best to cut out the material where it's been touching, because that stuff will have gone off. So I've got my green stuff. Now it's just going to be a case of feeding that into the gap around the neck, and maybe getting some tools to help push that further in. I find these silicone tools to be quite useful. It's something that won't tend to stick to things. Okay, so that just closes up the gap. And I'll do some around this front visor also. A couple more bits to go in the back of the legs, I think, just to put a bit more detail in here. A couple of these guns from some military kit, and they look like they'd fit nicely there. And I've got a little hard eye here that can just go on the top. See if it'll stick. These connecting rods, and found that kind of matches the distance here from the back pivot point up to the top of the main body. Made a little pad eye type piece that can go into. Maybe a couple more bits just to bulk out these legs. So because of the way I've orientated this piece on the back here, this skull's on its side, so it makes sense just to cover that up. A little resin cast fan. And following a general rule that if bits happen to fit together, then just glue them in. So this little circular piece here happens to perfectly fit into that recess. And I can maybe turn that into some sort of gun mounting or something else. So now that I've got this little mounting point for maybe a weapon or some attachment on there, start putting some bits together. And these are just all going to be bits that happen to fit. Been looking at a few different bits and pieces to try see what fits. None of it needs to make sense. It can just be just parts that happen to fit together. And just a few more surface mounted parts here, just to add a bit more visual interest. And then I think a nice hand wheel. Always like to show one of them, even if it's out of reach or impractical, just a nice detail. Okay, I think that's got enough going on to sell it as some sort of weapon. And I'm just hoping to glue that onto that mount there. Good work. One of the main features I want to add onto this is some sort of open top platform bolted up onto the top of the walker. So I've started putting together a kind of framework, and that's going to get glued up on here, and that's going to give me room to put a few miniatures, maybe mount another weapon or something up on there. I think that'll look good for the theme of this walker, that you'd have some of the crew up on the top there, and it's a good way of transporting those crew members also. It's a couple of panels from a tank kit, and then I've got some styrene rod there that glued into the holes there, and that's going to hold it together. But I've got some of this I-beam extruded styrene stuff, and that happens to fit into those recesses quite nicely. And if I glue that in, if I make a series of them, it'll give me a little flat platform that I can glue some other sheet down onto to kind of make that flat flooring. So we'll see how that works out. I think this is going to be the last substantial item to add to this walker. And once this is done, all the modelling work will be finished. can get this to look okay. Should make the overall effect quite good. Okay, with the basic frame now set up, I'm just going to chop up some of this other extrusions that I've got. This is more of a kind of C-section channel type design, and so some short pieces of that just to help finish off the outside face will look quite good. These things are produced by a company called Evergreen, a whole range of different types of these plastic extrusions. They're really useful for kit bashes and scratch building. Okay, so that's looking a bit more structural now. Maybe add some spikes to the front of this to help set the tone. Not that they would do very much being up so high. So in general, this is going to fit on here, like that. Still need to put in some flooring. I've got some of this checker plate style styrene sheet, which is perfect for cutting out a shape there, just for a bit of scale. There's a miniature, old 28mm style size miniature. So I think that as a side wall is a good height for them. I think I'm just going to cover up the base also, just so that I don't have to worry about painting some of these features here, because they're going to be really tricky to get to. So I think if I cover that up cover up the top and bottom side of this, that would just hide away some of that details that we'll be able to get to. Always satisfying cutting the styrene sheet, the way you can just score it and then it breaks apart nice and easy. Okay, this top platform's coming along now, becoming more complicated in terms of how I'm putting it together, as things tend to, but nonetheless quite a good sturdy piece now. Need a hatch for people to get in and out of the main walker up onto the platform, so we've got a nice hatch piece here. The problem is it's got kind of raised underside, which stops it sitting flush on the deck. So I've just been chopping out some small bits of box section with some mitered corners, and that should hopefully raise it up off the deck and give me something neat to glue down. The last piece might need a bit of adjustment. There we go. So it allows us to just glue that onto the deck. Go anywhere really, but I think I'll... Now I want to mount some sort of weapon up on here, and I'm thinking of doing a harpoon of some sort. I think that's a good idea for this kind of ash waste vehicle. Harpoons being fired off to try and capture things or whatever. So I've got a bit of tube here, a couple of bits stuck on the end, and then there's this piece from some other GW kit, and that could just go in there ready to be fired out. Try and get that straight in there. Just having that point coming out the end just helps indicate that it's some sort of sharp weapon. Now to make some sort of pivot so that it can be aimed, these bits from a older orc kit, I think. One of these like double barreled bolters or whatever it is. But what I like about it is it has little pivoting mechanism in there that I can glue together. So I just need to get rid of all the bits on here that identify it as a bit of a gun on its own. So get rid of that. I just want the overall mounting so that I can get the harpoon stuck down to something. Make these the same length. Yeah, and then trim off all those surface details. Okay, I think that looks less like an orc gun now. Only thing is the pivot piece has got this kind of cartoony metal lattice work on there, so I think I might just try and cut that off and swap in for another stand, and then take one of these like lamppost type things, but I want the base of it maybe about here, and then that can glue on top of that. Try and get that aligned. And then maybe for the base of that, sanded down a little disc piece that can stand on. And I'll glue that on with a bit of a tilt to it. Ready to be fired off down at someone on the ground, or a passing vehicle, or whatever it is. Okay, I think that would work as some sort of harpoon-like weapon. And then I'm thinking of just mounting that somewhere to the side. Now, height-wise, it's not too bad. Yeah, something like that would do. Just maybe aiming backwards a bit. Okay, so this top platform's starting to take shape now. Scale-wise, we're looking okay. Plenty of room to put quite a few miniatures on there if you want. Does it need something else? Maybe a little bit more of a handrail or something around it. So I've made a couple of handrails just out of the styrene rod stuff, some different thicknesses, just to glue in either side. Okay, there we go. I think that'll complete that. Don't think I really need much more glued onto that. It does what I need it to do. You can carry a number of miniatures, and it's a nice size for that. Okay, getting on with adding some of these hoses and little connecting lines, which just help finish off the model really. I've got a couple more of these flexible hoses from Zinj Industries, and what I've done is glued a couple of pieces on here that have little circular recesses in them. It's going to let me have something nice and easy to glue into to give me a connecting hose on that leg. So I've got a couple of them the same size, and I can do both sets. Okay, I think time now to glue this top platform into place. I'm just going to use the normal cement, plastic cement for this, so there's a bit more drying time. Not really bothered if it goes everywhere. Try and get it centred. Now at the back here, I'm wanting to fit an access ladder so people can get up on top of that. So I need to make some sort of little platform around the back of this exhaust area. And what I've found, these little plastic beams that happen to have a little angle on one side of them, and they just so happen to fit nicely into the recesses under here, even though this is kind of awkward, weird shape. There's a little shape here that just happens to fit into. So I'm going to use that, and that's going to give me something to build a platform onto. Okay, I've carried on working on that extra bit of platform at the back. Kind of fishtail thing. Spoiler. But yeah, the idea is a miniature can stand on there. Get a couple on there maybe. But yeah, the last thing maybe to do here is to fit on a ladder, just so that there's some sort of access, or at least a nod towards it. Just one of these Necromunda ladders from one of those kits. Or it could be Kill Team, I'm not sure. So this is the completed kit bash model, some scratch building in there also. But I think there's plenty of detail. I think I've gone far enough in terms of adding things to it and building things to stick on. Happy with the end result. Just to kind of finish things off for this stage, I've given it a prime using the Citadel Mechanicus Standard Grey, which has pulled it all together nicely. Really lets you see how the model looks once you get that kind of unifying colour sprayed on. It's a good size. There's a little 28mm miniature up on the top platform there, just to kind of give you some scale. And yeah, the next thing is going to be how to paint this. It's a pretty substantial size model, and I don't want to get too bogged down in details and things like that, so probably going to look for a reasonably efficient way of painting this, maybe with a bit of enamel washing to get some different weather and looks. So that's the end of the modelling or kit bashing stage in this project, and I hope there's been something useful for you in terms of what you've seen. So as I say, the next video in the series will be looking at how to paint this and getting it totally finished. So in the meantime, thanks very much for watching.